My golden child sister wore my inheritance to her wedding, thinking no one would ever call her out for stealing it. I sat in the front row, watching Alina glide down St. Catherine's aisle in grandmother's antique sapphire necklace, the one worth more than most people's cars. Every guest whispered about how stunning she looked, not knowing they were admiring stolen property. For 6 months, my family had gaslit me about the temporary borrowing. Mom's exact words, family shares. And you know how important Alina's day is. Grandmother would have wanted her to look perfect. Like I wasn't even grandmother's granddaughter. When I asked for it back last week, Alina actually laughed in my face. It looks better on me anyway. Maybe when you get married. If that ever happens, you can borrow something of mine. What my smug sister didn't know was that I'd spent 3 weeks gathering legal documents, and folded in my jacket pocket was grandmother's last will and testament, the one explicitly naming me as sole inheritor of her jewelry collection. My announcement during the reception toast was about to turn her perfect day into the most expensive mistake of her life. Sometimes karma comes with legal documentation. This wasn't the first time Alina had stolen from me. This was just the biggest theft in a lifetime of taking whatever she wanted. Growing up, Alina perfected the art of the permanent borrow. My favorite sweater would disappear from my closet, only to resurface in her Instagram posts months later. The leather jacket Dad got me for my 16th birthday. "Oh, I just needed it for one date," she'd say then. Somehow it became part of her permanent wardrobe. My college textbooks, my laptop charger, even the watch our uncle gave me for graduation. Everything was fair game for Alina's taking. The family script never changed. When I'd ask for my things back, Mom would roll her eyes and say, "Stop being selfish, Elias. Family shares. You should be happy your sister thinks your style is good enough to borrow." Dad would just shrug and tell me to pick my battles and keep the peace for the family. But Alina, she'd look me dead in the eye with that smug little smile and say something like, "I'll give it back when I'm done with it." Of course, she was never done with anything. Alina always got to borrow things that somehow never came back. The pattern was always the same. Alina would take something I'd protest, the family would gaslight me about sharing and being the bigger person, and then everyone would act like I was the problem for wanting my own property back. It was easier to just let her steal than deal with the entire family telling me I was being dramatic about material things. But this systematic theft training prepared Alina perfectly for her biggest heist, our grandmother's jewelry collection. When grandmother passed away 18 months ago, Alina immediately started circling the estate like a vulture. Grandmother always said I had the best taste, she'd announce at family dinners. I should probably take care of her jewelry collection since Elias doesn't even wear jewelry. Mom nodded along like this made perfect sense. Alina would definitely take better care of nice things. You know how Elias is with possessions. Like I was some kind of careless slob who couldn't be trusted with family heirlooms. Mom always said siblings share when Alina took my things. The centerpiece of grandmother's collection was a Victorian sapphire necklace that had been in our family for 4 generations. 3 tiers of deep blue stones set in white gold, worth about $40,000 according to the insurance papers. It was the kind of heirloom that should have been carefully preserved and passed down with intention and ceremony. Instead, Alina treated it like another item in her personal closet, wearing it to charity galas and engagement parties like it belonged to her. But Alina had no idea that grandmother's will specifically named me as the necklace's rightful owner. The final straw came 8 weeks before the wedding, when Alina made her theft official. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. Alina's engagement announcement post. Professional photographer, perfect, lighting her fiancé. Matt, looking adoringly at her while she posed with her hand on her hip, showing off the engagement ring. And there, glittering around her neck like it had always belonged to her, was grandmother's sapphire necklace. The caption read, "Can't wait to marry my soulmate. Matt surprised me with the most romantic proposal, and I get to wear my grandmother's vintage necklace as my something old on our special day. 4 generations of love in one piece. Blessed vintage vibes, family heirlooms. 4 generations of love. My ass. More like 4 generations of Alina's entitlement. The post had over 300 likes and dozens of comments from family friends gushing about how meaningful it was that she'd be wearing her grandmother's necklace. Not one person questioned whether it actually belonged to her. Why would they? The golden child had claimed it, so it must be hers. When I called Mom to ask what the hell was going on, she got defensive immediately. "Oh, Elias, don't be dramatic. It's just temporary for the wedding photos. Alina looks beautiful in it. And you know grandmother would have wanted her to feel special on her wedding day." But I knew this wasn't temporary. Once Alina wore that necklace down the aisle, once it appeared in all her wedding photos, once it became part of her perfect day story, it would be hers forever. The family would never ask her to give it back after that. Alina announced she'd wear grandmother's necklace as her something old. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I called grandmother's estate lawyer. 3 days later, I sat in the law office of Morrison & Associates, while Mr. Morrison pulled out a thick manila folder marked Elena Santos, Last Will and Testament. His reading glasses perched on his nose as he flipped through pages of legal documents that I'd never seen before. "Your grandmother was very specific about her jewelry collection," he said, his finger tracing down a paragraph of legal text. "She left explicit instructions about each piece. Let me read you section 4 subsection B. I bequeath my sapphire necklace, specifically the Victorian 3-tier piece inherited from my mother, to my grandson, Elias Santos, as he has always appreciated its historical significance and craftsmanship." The room went silent except for the sound of my heart pounding. I had legal documentation. I had proof. I had rights that trumped every manipulation my family had ever used against me. The lawyer handed me documents that would change everything at tomorrow's wedding. The week leading up to the wedding was pure psychological warfare. My family went into full damage control mode the moment they realized I wasn't going to quietly accept the theft anymore. Dad cornered me Tuesday morning while I was getting coffee at the kitchen counter. "Elias, I need you to think very carefully about what you're planning to do here," he said, using his serious boardroom voice, the one that had intimidated me my entire childhood. "This is Alina's special day. She's been planning this wedding for 2 years, spending thousands of dollars coordinating with dozens of vendors. Are you really going to be the person who ruins it over a piece of jewelry?" Mom tried the emotional manipulation route that afternoon. "Your grandmother loved both you and Alina equally," she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue like she was performing grief for my benefit. "She would be heartbroken to see you causing family drama over material possessions. Is this really what she would have wanted? You fighting with your sister on her wedding day? You know how important family harmony was to her." When I mentioned the will, both parents dismissed it immediately. "Those legal documents are just technicalities," Dad said. "Family is about love and support, not paperwork. Don't let some lawyer come between you and your sister." The gaslighting was textbook. Make me the villain for wanting my own inheritance back. Make me the selfish one for refusing to let my sister steal from me. Make me the problem for having legal documentation that proved my ownership. Dad said I'd ruin the family if I caused problems at the wedding. Thursday was the wedding rehearsal at St. Catherine's Cathedral, and watching Alina practice her grand entrance while wearing my stolen necklace was almost surreal. She glided down the practice aisle, hand on Matt's arm, absolutely glowing with the confidence that comes from getting away with theft. The sapphires caught the cathedral's stained glass lighting, perfectly creating these gorgeous blue sparkles that made every guest gasp in admiration. The wedding photographer was there for what they called a rehearsal shoot. Apparently, this was a thing now, and I watched them take dozens of photos of Alina posing with the necklace. Close-ups of her neck and décolletage, artistic shots with the cathedral lighting, candid moments of her laughing with her bridesmaids, while the stolen sapphires caught the light like they belonged to her. "The necklace is absolutely perfect with her dress," gushed the wedding planner, adjusting Alina's train for another photo. "It's like it was made for her. Such a meaningful family piece. You can see how much history and love it carries." Meaningful. Right. The only thing meaningful about it was the legal document in my jacket pocket that proved it belonged to me, not to the thief wearing it for her photo shoot. I watched Alina practice her wedding poses wearing my stolen inheritance, but I wasn't completely alone in this fight. Thursday night after the rehearsal dinner, my cousin Amelia pulled me aside in the church parking lot. Amelia had been grandmother's companion during her final months helping with doctor's appointments, medication management, and handling communications with the estate attorney. She knew better than anyone what grandmother had really wanted. "Elias," she said quietly, looking around to make sure we weren't overheard. "I need you to know that I heard your grandmother talking to her lawyer multiple times about that necklace. She was very specific about wanting you to have it. She said you were the only one who ever asked about the family history behind her jewelry. The only one who appreciated it for more than just its monetary value." Amelia had been there when grandmother made those decisions. She'd witnessed the conversations with Morrison and Associates. She knew about the will provisions that my family was pretending didn't exist. "I can testify to what I heard," she told me. "I can confirm that grandmother specifically chose you for the necklace. The family can't gaslight their way out of documented legal facts." Cousin Amelia confirmed she'd testify about what grandmother really wanted. Saturday morning, the day of the wedding, my phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Mom's contact photo lit up my screen, and I could hear the manufactured tears in her voice before I even said hello. "Elias, honey, please don't do this," she sobbed into the phone. "I've been awake all night thinking about what you said yesterday. You're going to destroy the family over just jewelry. Is that really worth it? Think about how this will affect everyone. Alina, Matt, the extended family who's traveling here for this celebration." She paused to let out what sounded like a particularly dramatic sniff. "Your father and I have worked so hard to keep this family together. We've always tried to treat you and Alina fairly. Don't let some old paperwork tear apart everything we've built." When I mentioned that old paperwork was legally binding, her tone shifted to anger. "Fine, Elias. If you want to be selfish and ruin your sister's wedding day, that's on you. But don't expect this family to forgive you for it." Mom called crying, saying I'd destroy the family over just jewelry. While my family was having their emotional meltdown, I was methodically preparing for what needed to happen. I had photocopied the relevant pages of grandmother's will 3 times. 1 copy for my jacket pocket, 1 for my car glove compartment, and 1 locked in my apartment safe as backup. Mr. Morrison's business card was programmed into my phone under Estate Lawyer. Call immediately. I'd also prepared a simple script for myself. Stick to the facts, reference the legal documentation. Don't get pulled into emotional manipulation. The will was clear, the inheritance was documented, and no amount of family guilt-tripping could change legal reality. This wasn't about being vindictive or cruel. This was about property ownership and stopping a theft that had gone on for too long. I had 3 copies of the will and grandmother's lawyer on speed dial. By noon, I was dressed in my suit and standing in the back of St. Catherine's Cathedral, watching the pre-ceremony preparations. The florists were making final adjustments to the altar arrangements, the organist was practicing hymns, and family members were beginning to arrive for photos. I watched the wedding coordinator, a tiny woman with a clipboard and an earpiece, approach Alina in the bridal suite. Through the open door, I could see her carefully lifting the sapphire necklace from its velvet jewelry box and securing it around Alina's neck with practiced precision. The 3 tiers of stones caught the light from the cathedral windows, creating that same stunning blue sparkle that had mesmerized wedding guests during the rehearsal. "Perfect," I heard the coordinator say. "It's absolutely perfect with your dress. Your grandmother would be so proud to see you wearing it on your special day." If only she knew what grandmother's will actually said about who should be wearing it. I watched the wedding coordinator pin the stolen necklace to Alina's dress. 10 minutes before the ceremony started, I took my assigned seat in the front row. The cathedral was packed with 200 guests. The photographer was positioned for optimal shots of the processional, and the organist began playing the opening hymns. As Alina appeared at the back of the cathedral in her flowing white dress, the stolen necklace glittering around her neck, every guest turned to admire her. She looked radiant, confident, completely convinced that she had gotten away with the perfect crime. The irony was devastating. Here she was about to promise to honor and cherish her husband while wearing jewelry she had stolen from her own brother. I sat in the front row, watching Alina promise to honor and cherish while wearing stolen jewelry. The moment came during the exchange of vows. Father Mackenzie had just asked Matt if he would take Alina to be his lawfully wedded wife, and Matt was in the middle of his romantic declaration when I stood up from my front row pew. "Excuse me, Father," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the cathedral's acoustics. "Before this ceremony continues, there's something the wedding party needs to hear about the necklace the bride is wearing." 200 guests turned to stare at me. The cathedral fell so silent you could hear the traffic outside. Alina's face went white under her makeup, and Matt looked confused, still holding her hands at the altar. "I have my grandmother's last will and testament with me," I continued, pulling the folded document from my jacket pocket. "And according to her legal wishes, that necklace belongs to me, not to Alina." Father Mackenzie looked uncertain, clearly not trained for this particular wedding disruption. "Perhaps this is something that could be discussed after the ceremony." "No, Father. This needs to be addressed now while everyone can hear the truth." I stood up during the ceremony and announced I had grandmother's will. I unfolded the will and found the section Mr. Morrison had highlighted for me. "This is from Section 4, subsection B, of Elena Santos's last will and testament dated March 15th, 2 years ago. I quote, I bequeath my sapphire necklace, specifically the Victorian 3-tier piece inherited from my mother, to my grandson Elias Santos, as he has always appreciated its historical significance." Craftsmanship. My voice was steady, matter-of-fact, like I was reading a grocery list instead of exposing a theft in front of 200 wedding guests. The document is signed, witnessed, and legally binding. The necklace currently around my sister's neck was specifically left to me, not to her. Alina finally found her voice. "That's ridiculous, Elias. Grandmother loved me. She would have wanted me to wear it on my wedding day." "Actually," I said, still holding the will, "the document is very specific. It states that I was chosen because I always appreciated its historical significance and craftsmanship. Not because of any special occasion, not because of favoritism, because grandmother believed I understood its value beyond just its appearance." Grandmother's will explicitly named me as the necklace's sole inheritor. That's when my cousin Amelia stood up from her seat in the 3rd row. Bless her heart, she had been waiting for exactly this moment. "I can confirm what Elias is saying," she announced to the entire cathedral. "I was with grandmother when she met with her lawyer about the will. She specifically talked about wanting Elias to have the necklace because he was the only grandchild who ever asked her about the family history behind her jewelry." Amelia's voice grew stronger as she continued. "Grandmother said that Alina only ever complimented how pretty her jewelry looked, but Elias would ask questions about where the pieces came from, who had worn them before, what stories they carried. She appreciated that he saw them as family heritage, not just accessories. Mom tried to interrupt from her seat. "Now wait just a minute. That's not..." But Amelia wasn't finished. I was in the room when grandmother told her lawyer the sapphire necklace should go to Elias. He understands what these pieces mean to our family's history. I heard her say those exact words. Amelia confirmed that grandmother specifically chose me over Alina. The cathedral was buzzing with whispered conversations now. Wedding guests were looking back and forth between me, Alina, and the will in my hands. You could feel the shift in the room. Suddenly I wasn't the troublemaker disrupting a wedding. I was the rightful owner of stolen property, and everyone could see it. The family has been telling people that the necklace was temporarily borrowed for the wedding, I said, addressing the entire congregation now. But there's nothing temporary about wearing someone else's inheritance in your wedding photos, or announcing on social media that it's your family heirloom. This is theft dressed up as sharing. I held up the will one more time. My grandmother's legal wishes are clear and documented. The necklace belongs to me. It was specifically left to me. And everyone in this cathedral has now heard the truth about who the rightful owner is. The silence that followed was deafening. Matt was still standing at the altar looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Father Mackenzie was clearly way out of his depth. And Alina looked like she was watching her perfect wedding day crumble in real time. The entire wedding party heard grandmother's will name me as the necklace's sole inheritor. The immediate aftermath was chaos. My parents went into full crisis management mode, trying to salvage the narrative they'd spent months crafting about Alina's meaningful family heirloom. Dad stood up from his seat and raised his voice to address the wedding guests. "Now hold on. Everyone, let's not let legal technicalities ruin this beautiful celebration. Family is about love and sharing, not paperwork. I'm sure if we all just calm down, we can work this out after the ceremony." Mom was even more desperate. She turned to face the congregation, her voice shaking with manufactured emotion. "You have to understand, Elias's grandmother loved both of her grandchildren equally. She would have wanted Alina to feel beautiful on her wedding day. She would have wanted the necklace to be part of this special moment. Grandmother always said family should share what they have." The gaslighting was reaching peak intensity now. They were literally trying to rewrite a dead woman's legal wishes in front of 200 witnesses. Mom tried to convince guests that grandmother would have wanted Alina to have it, but the wedding guests weren't buying it. I could hear whispered conversations breaking out across the cathedral. People were looking at the will in my hands, then at the necklace around Alina's neck, then back at my parents with expressions of growing skepticism. "Wait," said Uncle Frank from the 4th row, loud enough for surrounding guests to hear. "Are you telling me that Elias legally inherited this necklace, but Alina's been wearing it anyway? That sounds like theft to me." Aunt Patricia, sitting next to him, nodded in agreement. Why would the family let her wear someone else's inheritance to her wedding? That doesn't make sense. More voices joined in. If the will says it belongs to Elias, then it belongs to Elias. How long has she been wearing his property? Did the parents know about the will when they let this happen? The questions kept coming, and each one made my family's position more indefensible. Wedding guests started asking why the family had stolen Elias's inheritance. Meanwhile, Alina was having her own meltdown at the altar. Her face had gone from white to red, and she was gripping the necklace around her neck like she was afraid someone would rip it off her. "This is my wedding day," she said loudly, her voice cracking with emotion. "I've been planning this for 2 years. I'm not taking off my grandmother's necklace because of some stupid piece of paper. Everyone knows grandmother loved me more anyway." Matt, her poor fiancé, was just standing there, looking completely lost. This was supposed to be the happiest day of their lives. And instead, he was watching his bride refuse to return stolen property, while screaming about favoritism in front of their entire wedding party. Alina, maybe we should just… Matt tried to interject. No, she snapped at him. I'm not ruining my wedding photos because Elias is jealous that I got something nice. Alina refused to take off the necklace, claiming it was her wedding day. That's when I pulled out my phone and called Mr. Morrison's office. The call connected on the second ring, and I put it on speaker so everyone in the cathedral could hear. Mr. Morrison. This is Elias Santos. I'm at my sister's wedding, and she's currently wearing the sapphire necklace that was left to me in my grandmother's will. Can you please confirm for everyone here what the legal document says about ownership? I called grandmother's lawyer to confirm the theft in front of everyone. Mr. Morrison's voice came through my phone speaker, clearly reaching every guest in the silent cathedral. Hello, Elias. Yes, I can certainly confirm the contents of your grandmother's will. According to the legally binding document filed with our office, Elena Santos bequeathed her Victorian sapphire necklace specifically to you. Elias Santos, with explicit instructions that you were chosen due to your appreciation of its historical significance. He paused, then continued in his professional legal tone. The will also contains a clause stating that any family member who attempts to claim or use this inheritance without your permission would be in violation of the deceased's wishes and subject to legal action for theft of inherited property. The cathedral was absolutely silent, except for Mr. Morrison's voice echoing off the stone walls. 200 wedding guests heard a lawyer confirm that Alina was wearing stolen property at her own wedding. The lawyer confirmed on speaker that Alina had stolen my inheritance. Alina's reaction was immediate and spectacular. The composure she'd maintained throughout the ceremony completely shattered as she realized that her theft had been exposed to everyone she cared about. "This is insane!" she screamed, her voice echoing through the cathedral. "You're ruining my wedding over stupid paperwork. This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and you're destroying it because you're jealous that grandmother loved me more." Her wedding dress rustled as she gestured wildly, the stolen necklace catching the light with every movement. "I've been planning this wedding for 2 years. I've spent thousands of dollars. I invited everyone I care about to watch me get married, and you're making it about some old necklace." Matt tried to put his hand on her arm to calm her down, but she shook him off. "Don't you see what he's doing? He's always been jealous of me, and now he's trying to ruin the most important day of my life." But her meltdown was only making things worse. Every word she spoke made her sound more entitled, more selfish, more like someone who would absolutely steal her brother's inheritance for a wedding photo. Alina screamed that her wedding was ruined by stupid paperwork. The wedding guests were processing what they'd just witnessed, and their whispered conversations were getting louder. I could hear fragments of their discussions echoing through the cathedral. Did she just call a legal will stupid paperwork? How long has she been wearing jewelry that doesn't belong to her? The lawyer said it was theft, actual theft. I can't believe the family let this happen. Uncle Frank was shaking his head in disbelief. Elias, I had no idea the family was lying to us about this. If we'd known the necklace was yours, we never would have supported Alina wearing it. Aunt Patricia nodded in agreement. This is terrible. How could your parents let Alina steal your inheritance and then act like it was normal family sharing? The tide of public opinion had completely turned. What started as a beautiful wedding ceremony had become a public trial, where my family's lies and manipulation were being exposed to everyone who mattered to them. Wedding guests realized the family had been lying about inheritance for months. Father Mackenzie, clearly wanting to end this chaos, stepped forward. Perhaps we should pause the ceremony while the family resolves this legal matter privately. But Alina wasn't done fighting. She clutched the necklace around her neck like a lifeline. I'm not taking this off. I don't care what some piece of paper says. It's my wedding day, and this necklace makes my dress perfect. That's when I decided enough was enough. I called over to the cathedral security guard, who had been watching the entire spectacle unfold. Excuse me, sir. I have legal documentation that the necklace this woman is wearing belongs to me. She's refusing to return my stolen property. Can you assist me in recovering it?" The security guard looked at the will in my hands, listened to Mr. Morrison still on speaker, confirming the legal ownership, and nodded. "Ma'am, if the gentleman has legal documentation proving ownership, I'm going to need you to return the item to its rightful owner." Alina's eyes went wide with panic as she realized she was about to lose her leverage. "You can't make me. This is my wedding." But legal documentation trumps wedding entitlement every time. With the security guard's assistance and 200 witnesses watching, I carefully removed the sapphire necklace from around my sister's neck. Security helped me recover my stolen inheritance from Alina's neck. As I held the necklace in my hands, my grandmother's necklace, my legal inheritance, my rightful property, the entire cathedral erupted in whispered conversations. Wedding guests were pulling out their phones to text family members about the drama they'd just witnessed. The golden child had been exposed as a thief at her own wedding, and everyone could see who was really in the wrong. I looked out at the 200 faces staring back at me, and felt something I'd never experienced in my entire life: complete, undeniable vindication. Everyone at the wedding saw who the real thief was. The immediate aftermath was swift and decisive. With 200 witnesses and a lawyer's confirmation on record, my parents found themselves in an impossible position. There was no gaslighting their way out of documented legal facts. Dad approached me after the ceremony had been officially postponed, his corporate confidence completely deflated. "Elias," he said quietly, We didn't realize the will was so specific about the necklace. We thought it was just a general inheritance that could be shared between siblings, but I wasn't buying their ignorance act anymore. Dad, the will specifically names me. Grandmother's lawyer read the exact section that says the necklace goes to me because of my appreciation for its historical significance. You can't pretend you didn't know. Mom tried one last manipulation attempt. "We just wanted both our children to feel special. We never meant for this to become such a big legal issue. You helped steal my inheritance," I said simply. "You enabled Alina to take something that legally belonged to me, and then you gaslit me for months about family sharing when you knew it was theft." Mom and Dad had to admit they'd helped steal my inheritance. The wedding reception was canceled, obviously. Matt and Alina left the cathedral separately. She was too humiliated to face the guests who had witnessed her meltdown, and he needed time to process the fact that his bride had been exposed as a thief at their own ceremony. The guests filed out of St. Catherine's, slowly many of them stopping to apologize to me for not knowing about the legal inheritance. Uncle Frank shook my hand and said, "I'm glad you stood up for yourself, Elias. What happened here today was wrong, and I'm sorry the family put you through this." The entire extended family now understood what I'd been dealing with for years. The systematic favoritism the theft disguised as sharing, the gaslighting, designed to make me feel guilty for wanting my own property back. Alina's perfect wedding became the day she was exposed as a thief. 6 months later, my relationship with my family looks completely different. The golden child pedestal has crumbled, and Alina has to face the reality that her entire identity was built on unearned privileges and stolen property. My parents treat me with a respect I've never experienced before. Not because they love me more, but because they know I won't tolerate their manipulation anymore. I still wear grandmother's necklace sometimes, usually to family gatherings. It serves as a beautiful reminder that some battles are worth fighting, especially when you have the law on your side. The golden child learned that stealing has consequences, and I'm not the family scapegoat anymore.